So let's take a listen to Godwin Emefiele, the governor at the central bank. What did he have to tell the bankers and by extension the entire country? When the central bank governor speaks or any central bank governor speak at the annual dinner of the bankers, he wasn't just talking to the audience sitting right there having the dinner, he's talking to all of us. Let's take a listen to Godwin Emefiele.
Given the rising yields in advanced markets, capital flows from emerging markets have increased tremendously. This has led to substantial exchange market pressures in many emerging markets, with FX reserves falling about 25.2% in Argentina, 9.6% in Turkey, and 2.1% in South Africa since the beginning of this year. Also, significant currency depreciation has been recorded in Argentina by 101%, Turkey by 43%, Brazil by 19%, Russia 19%, and India 16%, even as the Nigerian naira has remained somewhat stable. As a matter of fact, a recent Bloomberg data on financial markets performances revealed that Nigeria bond market remains one of the most attractive investment destinations. Currency Bond Index, which covers major emerging markets such as Nigeria, South Africa, Argentina, China, and Russia, in the second quarter of 2018, Nigerian local bond topped the chart with an average total return of 3.2% in dollar terms. The total return is a combination of the price changes in the bonds over the second quarter of 2018, the interest returns, and the changes in the currency. Nigeria's dominance over this period was due to the stability of the investors and exporters rate and the yields being high by emerging market standards. Investors are also sure that they can exit their positions if they need to, which has been crucial in driving other investors back into the Nigerian market. Our outlook and policy thrust 2019. Global growth projections, both for 2018 and 2019, have been revised downwards to 3.7% from 3.9% earlier projected. Growth momentum in the US is projected to remain strong as fiscal stimulus continues into 2019. In emerging markets, growth factors are revised downwards for Argentina, Brazil, Iran, Turkey, and South Africa, reflecting country-specific factors, uncertainties in the financial conditions, and rising geopolitical tensions, as well as higher oil import bills. In light of the current developments in both the global and domestic economies, and based on extensive simulations, the CBN is of the view that the short-term outlook of the Nigerian economy remains good. We expect that in monetary policy stance will remain judicious, research-driven, adequate, and supportive of the real economy, subject to underlying fundamentals. You can draw your conclusions from there. The current tight stance is expected to continue in the near term, especially in view of rising inflation expectations and exchange market pressures. Though we would act as appropriately adjust the policy rate in line with unfolding conditions and outlooks, the CBN will continue to ensure that the policy interest rate is delicately set to balance the objectives of price and monetary stability with output stabilization. On GDP, with favorable oil price developments and continued efforts at driving indigenous production in high-impact real sector activities, especially agriculture and manufacturing, the GDP is expected to pick up in the remaining 2 quarters of 2018. This will be buoyed by the anticipated budgetary and electioneering spending in the near term. from 1.5% during the second quarter of 2018, growth is projected to quicken to 1.7% during the third quarter and 1.9% during the fourth quarter of 2018. On inflation, inflation expectations are rising on the backdrop of anticipated politically related liquidity injections. For the rest of 2018 and towards mid of 2019, Nigeria's inflation rate is projected to rise slightly to about 11.4% and then moderate thereafter. On exchange rate, though the CBN has so far managed to maintain stable exchange rate, the current capital flow reversals from emerging markets is expected to continue to exert considerable pressure on market rates. This pressure could be amplified by the forthcoming elections, especially as the political market space heats up. Notwithstanding these pressures, the CBN is determined to maintain its stable exchange rate stance over the next few months, given the relatively high level of reserves. Gross stability is expected in the FX market, given increased oil-related inflows and continued import bill. I'd like to make it categorically clear that sustaining a stable exchange rate is of overriding importance to us at the CBN, even as we continue to put measures in place to shore up our reserves. On the balance of payments, our overall balance of payments is expected to remain positive in the short term. Hoping that oil prices continue to recover, we expect the current account balance to strengthen even further. This will be supported by improved non-oil performance as diversification efforts begin to yield fruits to reduce undue imports. On supporting domestic production, given the remarkable success that has been achieved in stimulating domestic production of goods such as rice, cassava, maize, and etc., as a result of the restriction placed on the CBN by the CBN on access to forex for these items, the CBN intends to vigorously ensure that this policy remains in place and additional efforts will be made to block any attempts by unscrupulous parties. Here, I mean both individuals and corporates that intend to find other avenues of accessing forex in order to import these items into Nigeria. And please, let's listen to this. The CBN's Economic Intelligence and Banking Supervisions Department will collaborate, will work very, very closely with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission to expose and sanction any bank, any company and or its directors or FX operator that colludes with unscrupulous individuals, companies to undermine the policy on 41 items. The prohibition and sanction shall be extended to smugglers of banned items. Such sanctions will include, but not limited to, prohibiting that bank from maintaining any, in fact, prohibiting all the banks in Nigeria. I mean, all the banks in Nigeria from maintaining any bank account for any such institution or persons in Nigeria.
That's a riot act there from the Central Bank Governor, Emefiele, speaking on the 41 prohibited items, items prohibited from the FX market. Says there will be very heavy sanctions for any organizations or banks involved in that breaches those rules. So let's get back to one big story around the Nigeria's market street. This week is the FinTech Festival. Nigeria is hosting this get-together for the first time across the sub-Saharan Africa. This is the first ever Nigeria is hosting that. The president of FinTech Nigeria, Dr. Segun, is live to us from our studios downtown Lagos at the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Dr. Anna, good morning, and thank you very much for coming on the program. Bring us up to speed very quickly what is being achieved around the FinTech and Digital Revolution corridor, not just in Nigeria, but across Africa, that makes a festival, get-together, a summit very important.
Thank you very much, Bosin, for this opportunity. Yes, the African FinTech ecosystem has been growing in leaps and bounds, especially in the last 3 years or so. In fact, in the last 3 years, investment into FinTechs in African countries have totaled over $3 billion, with most of it coming to Nigeria, South Africa, and Kenya. The second tier investment, countries that are getting the next level of investments are like Egypt and Ghana, for instance, and Rwanda, while countries like Uganda, Morocco, Egypt are also benefiting a lot. So we have seen a lot of traction. We have seen a lot of new initiatives coming into Africa, and we are determined to bring Africa together as one market, such that even intra-African FinTech engagements, intra-African trade, and so on, can be enhanced through FinTechs, and of course promote FinTech initiatives beyond the continent of Africa to earn the much-needed foreign exchange for the growth of African economies.
What else, Dr. Anna, are you learning as you move across African region? You've been to a few African countries talking to your partners and your friends and your colleagues around this FinTech, financial technology, financial inclusion. What new things are you learning?
Well, we're learning the fact that, when most of initiatives in the FinTech in the past few years were on payment systems, which is really very, very understandable. Particularly the fact that, in developed economies like we have in Africa, we need to build new infrastructure to be able to provide services to people would more efficiently, unlike in developed economies where they are really disrupting existing infrastructures. So what we are seeing in the last 2 years, FinTech now going into other areas of financial technology, like blockchain, for instance. 2 years ago, blockchain was just like merely theory for most people. But today, we've seen real life applications of blockchain in many countries in Africa. In Nigeria, for instance, we've seen the application of blockchain to increase government revenue through the customs service. We've seen blockchain used to enhance agricultural production. We've seen blockchain used for develop the payment value chain, and so many things are really happening. The same thing with artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, and so on. It has moved beyond theory and now going to applications, seeing real life stories of how these technologies are being used. A lot of banks now use chatbots, where you have machines dealing with people, answering questions and taking care of their customer service needs. So those are the things that we have seen in the last 1 year, and that is why we believe all this should be showcased. That's why we are bringing all FinTech leaders and regions in Africa to Nigeria this week to come and showcase what is happening already and what they plan to do in the next 1 year, so that we are all working together as one Africa, engage, learn from each other, and move the needle in terms of getting Africa to the next stage of development.
You'll be having non-African organizations such as the UK's DFID and others speaking at this conference this week. So what new things would you be expecting to hear from them? What partnership will be fostered by this festival, as it is called?
Yes, a lot of interesting things are going to happen. For instance, we are convening the African FinTech Network, which will be inaugurated during this festival. And we've already had handshakes and collaborative agreements with other regions of the world. The Asian FinTech Network, for instance, that is a network of all FinTech organizations in Asian countries, Malaysia, Singapore, and so on and so forth. We have an understanding, and we're going to do a symbolic MOU at this event. We also have the Middle East North African FinTech Association. That's an association of countries within the Middle East. We already have an arrangement with them, collaboration, so that we can exchange ideas, we can transfer resources and talents within this region. Moving beyond that, the UK, the British government has really very interested in supporting Africa, in working with Africa. During the visit of the Prime Minister to Africa, particularly to Nigeria, in late August, the idea of the UK Africa FinTech Investment Group was put together. And I'm pleased to tell you that at this African FinTech Festival, the UK Africa FinTech Investment Group will be launched, will be inaugurated. Indeed, we are having the first meeting of that group this afternoon at 2:30 with the UK Prime Minister Ambassador for FinTech being the co-chair together with the Lord Mayor of London. I'm a member of that group, and it comprises people, investors in the UK and also FinTech leaders in Africa. The aim of that is to ensure that we find means of UK getting much more involved in Africa, in investment in Africa, increase the pace of investment, increase the pace of interaction and engagement with the FinTech community in Africa. And of course, the Canadian government is also involved.
Dr. Shegwano.
The Canadian.
Yes, I'm sorry to cut in there. I'm sure it looks like you're one of the busiest guy on the Market Street for this week as far as FinTech is concerned. Thank you very much. We've got to let you go at this point in time. Dr. Shegwano, the president of FinTech Nigeria, and the CEO of FinTech Associates, will follow that story up for you through the rest of the week. Let's take a break. When we come back, we're taking a look at some of what Governor Emefiele says at the CBN dinner as we welcome everyone to December.